Tonight, show us the money. The Scottish Government asks the Treasury for extra funds to help it reach public sector pay deals, with some workers at crisis point.
Choices between paying your rent and having food in our fridges, buying your children a new school uniform, or heating our homes to keep them warm.
Also making the headlines, concerns over the number of youngsters vaping. An STV investigation reveals a rise in classroom confiscations.
And in sport, I'll have the latest from Birmingham as Team Scotland go for yet more medals in the Commonwealth Games.
And as Celtic begin their title defence with a win, Rangers fly out to Belgium to begin a new European adventure.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. With NHS workers, teachers, police officers and some council employees all unhappy with the pay rises they're being offered, there's a warning tonight. Services may have to be cut so settlements can be reached.
The Scottish Government is asking the UK Treasury for extra funding, saying the current budget doesn't take into account the effects of inflation or the level of wage increases being proposed. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
And we love our jobs. The NHS would not have survived for this long if we didn't, but we are now having to make tough choices.
In a video posted on social media, Dawn, a nurse based in Aberdeen, spells out some of the grim reality her colleagues are facing.
Choices between paying your rent and having food in our fridges, buying your children a new school uniform, or heating our homes to keep them warm, putting fuel in our cars to get to work, or eating lunch for the rest of the week. Going hungry for the rest of the month, or finally swallowing our pride and just attending a food bank. These are some of the choices that we have been forced to make, and I cannot help but wonder, how much more can we take?
The RCN is balloting its members over whether the current pay offer is acceptable and if they'd be prepared to take strike action.
It's as a result of many years of under-inflation pay increases, and this year they've been offered 5%. Inflation is going to be around about 11%, so another real terms pay cut. And to be fair, nurses have had enough.
Teachers, the police and some council workers are among other parts of the public sector currently involved in pay disputes. Now the Deputy First Minister has written to the Chancellor asking for more money to help strike deals without cutting services.
The Scottish Government's budget was set when inflation was very low. It's now very high, and we're facing much more significant public sector pay claims. And on a fixed budget, if we're to find more money for public sector pay, then we need to make sure that there's more resources coming in, and the United Kingdom Government has the financial flexibilities to address that issue.
For its part, the UK Government says the Scottish Government has been given record levels of funding, while Labour argues the two of them are simply blaming each other for collective failings. Gordon Cree, STV News, Edinburgh.
Well, as you heard in Gordon's report, John Swinney's request has already been rejected by the Treasury, and it comes as the Conservative leadership contest and the race to number 10 steps up a gear. From today, ballot papers will start dropping through the letterboxes of Conservative Party members. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay joins us now from Perth. So Colin, who's going to be the next Prime Minister?
Well, right now the favourite is Foreign Secretary Liz Truss. She's certainly got a bit of momentum with support from other Cabinet colleagues today, but also from 9 Conservative MSPs, including frontbenchers Murdo Fraser, Liam Kerr, Rachel Hamilton and the Chief Whip Stephen Kerr. They say that she's a child of the Union because she was brought up in both Paisley and in Leeds. Now, when she was at primary school in Paisley in 1983 during the election, she went in dressed as Margaret Thatcher. She got no votes that day. I think it's pretty safe to say she'll get a lot more for the Conservative leadership from Conservative members. Now, Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor, he admits that he's the underdog in the race right now, but he has some pretty significant Scottish support as well from former party leaders here, Baroness Ruth Davidson and Jackson Carlaw. It was thought earlier on in the campaign that he might be the favourite in Scotland. But then, if you cast your mind back a few years to the last time we went through all of this, Jeremy Hunt was the favourite in Scotland over Boris Johnson, and we know how that played out.
And Colin, there will be a Scottish hustings, won't there?
There will be a hustings. They'll be here at Perth Concert Hall 2 weeks tomorrow. Now, it's only Conservative members who will be allowed in to ask questions, but I'll be chairing that event just as I did a few years ago, and that was then considered to have been the toughest hustings that the candidates faced during that run of them right across the UK. There's no reason to think that it won't be just as tough for both the candidates this time. So far, they've not really been tested on their plans for the union. That's something that the Conservative members will certainly want to ask them about. So far, pretty much all they've said is no to another referendum. I think there'll be an awful lot more to come on that in 2 weeks' time.
Indeed. All right, Colin, from Perth, thank you.
Rail passengers are being warned to expect last-minute delays and cancellations on the Avanti West Coast lines to and from Glasgow. The company says it's due to unofficial strike action by the drivers' union ASLEF, but the union insists that's not the case. Well, our reporter Vanessa Taff is at Central Station for us tonight. So, Vanessa, what's the latest?
Well, in the last few hours, ASLEF union reps have held talks with Avanti West Coast bosses about what they're calling unofficial strike action. The union say there's been no progress from these talks and that they're taking the time off that they're owed. It's worth noting that ASLEF drivers haven't had a dispute on this line in 27 years when the line was last privatised. But these drivers are overworked. They say they're working a lot of overtime recently. They're working on their days off. They're taking on extra shifts. So they've told me that they have had enough. They say they don't want to take this action and that they want to come to an arrangement with Avanti, but that the talks are going nowhere.
There is no unofficial action taking place. What's taking place is train drivers are taking their contracted time off. You can only volunteer to work extra shifts. It's not compulsory. So it's a mistruth. It's an attempt to mislead the public, which is wrong. If they employed enough train drivers, then they could run the railway service.
So, Vanessa, what are Avanti saying about all this?
Well, Avanti say that this is unofficial action and that they want to resolve it. But, they're advising passengers that they should be prepared for last-minute cancellations and delays. They also say that some services might be busier as a result. So it's guessed that that would most likely be late-night services and overnight services on this line. They say they're sorry for the inconvenience and that they want the union to engage in meaningful talks with them about how they modernise this service. But obviously the unions say they're always open to talks, so really just a breakdown in communication here entirely. But it's yet another blow for passengers. This really is turning out to be a summer of complete travel disruption for everybody across all transport methods. But really a reminder that there's official strike action planned on these lines for Saturday the 13th of August, which will mean more cancellations for passengers this summer.
OK, Vanessa at Glasgow Central, thank you. The number of youngsters vaping at Scottish secondary schools has increased substantially over the last 4 years, according to data obtained by STV News. Numerous council areas have reported a rise in the number of vape-related products being smoked in the classroom and confiscated from school pupils.
It comes as experts raise concern over the marketing of e-cigarettes on social media sites like TikTok. Here's Polly Bartlett.
So tell me, how often do you vape?
Every day, all the time. I'm literally constantly vaping.
I buy one every day.
If one person does it, then you kind of want to join in, so everybody else does it.
Vaping is more popular than ever among Scotland's teens.
It can be secretive around, parents, etc. They're not going to smell it off of you. There's no visual signs of decay, if you will. Your fingers don't go yellow. It doesn't yellow your teeth instantly the way that a cigarette does.
People are trying to fit in with the crowds, and I just use it for my own benefit now, to be fair. I'm not trying to look cool, I'm not trying to be one of those people.
Libby and Joel aren't alone. A recent survey has shown that the number of young people vaping has almost doubled in the last 2 years. 18-year-old Paige says she's now addicted.
I think it's because, especially the disposables are such high nicotine, that it's way more addictive than just normally smoking. I usually buy more than one at a time, so every couple of days I'll buy 3 or 4 just so I'm set.
Disposable vapes are cheap and they're available across the country for as little as £5. You have to be 18 to buy one, but new data shows that kids are now vaping in schools. A rise in the number of vaping products being confiscated in the classroom has been recorded in all these locations. It's an issue Innes and Alice know well.
It happens like a lot, like in the toilets. Like I'll be at lunch in the toilets and I'll see like a group of about 10 girls and they're all vaping. No one's really shocked by it anymore because it happens every day.
And sometimes when, say, a teacher leaves the classroom, someone will just get their vape out and start vaping, and it's this funny thing. People aren't surprised by it, and I think that's quite shocking, actually.
Health experts are shocked too, adding that teenagers are being heavily influenced on social media sites like TikTok.
I think this is a perfect starter product for nicotine addiction. And with tobacco, we've seen that young people who experiment can get addicted really quickly. I think we need to act now to block that channel of new addiction. We know from the World Health Organization that young people who vape are more likely to end up using cigarettes, up to 3 times more likely. And a lot of these products are really under-regulated. So I think there are real concerns. I think we need to act to reduce the visibility, the promotions, the marketing, and some of the lies that are being told about these cigarettes.
We think a lot of this is actually driven by new products that are on the market that young people find very easy to get a hold of. And obviously this is something that we need to reverse, because these are not products for young people who've never smoked. If you're a young person who doesn't smoke and you're vaping, you have to ask yourself, why are you using the product? It's costing you money, there's unknown health harms, and if you're addicted to it, it's difficult to quit.
Vaping has reduced levels of smoking among teens, but by replacing one bad habit with another, experts are questioning if we're really tackling the issue. Polly Bartlett, STV News.
Other stories across Scotland, and the Scottish Government ministers Kate Forbes and Angus Robertson are among the latest politicians to be sanctioned by Russia. The Ukraine Minister Neil Cray, SNP's Westminster leader Ian Blackford and the Scottish Lib Dem leader Alec Cole-Hamilton were also included on the list. The Russian government has banned the politicians from the country following support given to Ukraine since the invasion in February.
The pilot of a light aircraft has had a lucky escape after it crashed in a field in Fife. The plane came down near Kinlassie this morning, a few miles from Glenrothes Airport. The pilot was shaken but unhurt. The accident happened after the cockpit canopy opened in mid-air.
It swung round to the right, so it was going to be heading over the top of the garage, I thought. But then I realised it was getting a bit too low. And the next thing, it lost height. It went down to the right, and as it came down, it must have caught the wing, flipped it round, and then it nosedived into the ground.
BT and Openreach staff are staging the second of 2 24-hour strikes in a dispute over pay. Members of the Communication Workers Union are calling for a rise in line with inflation. Food items were also being collected, with some staff said to be relying on food banks. BT says it's working to minimise any disruption to the public.
We've got a housing crisis, we've got a climate crisis, and now we've got a cost of living crisis. A lot of these people behind me are living on the breadline effectively, and it's absolutely unacceptable. The donations are here from people of the public, from members here who can afford it. They're giving as little or as much as they possibly can to try and stem the gap between the richest paid and the poorest in this country, and it's something that we need to stop.
Edinburgh is to become Scotland's first short-term let control zone after the Scottish Government approved a bid by city leaders. The move aims to crack down on Airbnb-style accommodation.
It means anyone letting out an entire residential property which is not their main home on a short-term let basis will have to apply for planning permission as well as applying for a licence, something that was passed earlier this year. Some businesses say they fear the changes will cost them their livelihoods. Vanessa Kennedy reports.
The start of festival season sees the capital double in size for the month of August. And when it comes to where to stay, many tourists opt for an Airbnb-style holiday lets.
I think it gives you some diversity in where you're staying.
I think you get to see more of the city, usually, because Airbnbs are not always,
don't know, in like the touristy parts of a town.
It feels more homely and allows us to have that space where we can spread out a little bit rather than being cramped up inside a hotel room.
Around a third of all short-term lets in Scotland are here in the capital, and now Edinburgh will become the first place in Scotland to introduce a control area over those types of lets. So it means, with a few exceptions, the change of use from a residential home to a short-term let will automatically require planning permission. That's in addition to a licensing scheme already passed by the Scottish Government. Louise has been running her self-catering accommodation business for 24 years, providing short-term housing solutions in the capital. But now she's worried about the future.
I will be looking at whether the business can continue. The cat is out of the bag in terms of Airbnb and those types of portals have meant that people are now, they have experience staying in homes, and it's a choice that they want to make.
The Scottish Government says the measures are in response to a number of concerns.
There have been reports of antisocial behaviour, of people having safety concerns. So it's about the appropriate use of holiday lets and being able to control the number going forward to avoid a situation like that arising in more properties.
Edinburgh Council says the next step should be looking at whether a cap on numbers is applied. For those who are renting their properties solely for the festival, the rules don't apply if it's your main residence that you're temporarily letting out. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News, Edinburgh.
Young Ukrainian refugees have been given the chance to take to the pitch of one of Scotland's top-flight clubs. Kilmarnock have welcomed dozens of families for a fun day out after being forced to flee their homes due to the war. Sasha Spratt reports.
A pre-season friendly with a bit of a difference. These kids taking to the pitch at Kilmarnock's Rugby Park aren't the club's juniors, but are Ukrainian refugees who now call East Ayrshire home. Maria and Ina fled the war with their children earlier this year, sponsored by the council and the Scottish Government.
My kids are really enjoying being at school here, and they have already found new friends. They really like the schools, and they're very happy here.
Our children have already experienced a lot of stress and anxiety, and now they are here, they have lots of things they didn't have back home. We can now finally relax and we feel relieved at last.
A run around on a Scottish Premiership pitch is a great way to spend the summer holidays. But in a few weeks' time, these kids, like all others across Scotland, will be back at school, some for the first time. Mikola and his mum Diana are staying with their host Mandy. Mikola's first ever day in a classroom will be in Ayrshire.
He's enjoying, he has new friends, 2 new friends from his future classmates, 2 friends.
I mean, it took us a while to get Diana here, but it's actually been great. It couldn't have gone better. The school have been absolutely brilliant, and the kids have sent him videos to welcome him, and so he's really excited and looking forward to starting. I've got a granddaughter who's there as well, so it's been great.
So, are there any future Killie stars in the making?
The community is very important to us, and our community, the KCST, they're looking after all these kids this afternoon, and it's a big thing here for us all at Kilmarnock, because it's a huge, football club's got a huge part to play in the community. See by the way their ball skills they're not too bad, are they?
These families' futures are uncertain, but football is a global sport. An adopted club here may just give these kids another reason to call Scotland home. Sasha Spratt, STV News, Kilmarnock.
Now, Rahman's back with the sport. I was going to say we missed you, but...
First day back, same old John.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Good evening. Connor Golson has leapt to the defence of John Souttar. He's adamant the central defender will bounce back from a difficult competitive debut and prove his quality for Rangers. Souttar was at fault for the club's opening goal against Livingston on Saturday, a game the Edinburghs side won 2-1. Golson was speaking as he and his teammates flew out to Belgium ahead of the club's Champions League qualifier against Union Saint-Gilloise.
New signings Rabbi Matondo, Ridvan Yilmaz
And Ben Davies were amongst the travelling party as Rangers get set to begin their Champions League campaign. John Souttar also boarded the flight to Belgium. The central defender, who joined the Ajax side from Hearts, struggled in his first competitive match for his new club. The 25-year-old was caught out by the movement of Livingston's Joel Noubley, who put his side 1-up in the first half. Souttar's performance has been heavily criticised. His teammates say this is harsh.
I was disappointed on Saturday. I've seen obviously a few things on the internet and on things like that. People obviously talking bad just because he's had one game where he probably made a few mistakes, but we've all been there. I've been there myself. I've been written off plenty of times by Rangers fans, and I see him every single day and see the qualities that he has, so I have no doubt at all that he's going to be an unbelievable signing for this club. He's joined Rangers, which we all know comes with the pressure that he comes with, but people can't judge people off one game.
Souttar was subbed in the second half as James Sands and Scott Arfield entered the fray. The latter levelled for Rangers. 2 minutes later, James Tavernier's free kick won the match for the visitors. At Celtic Park yesterday, supporters welcomed their title-winning team to an impressive pre-match display. Captain Callum McGregor had the honour of unfurling the league flag. It took the champions just 3 minutes to gain the advantage over Aberdeen. Stephen Welsh with the opener. Ange Postecoglou's side dominated this match. Their second came 15 minutes from time, and what a hit it was from Jota. Celtic are away to Ross County this weekend. Motherwell caretaker boss Stevie Hamill will hold talks with the club hierarchy this week over the vacant manager's position. The academy director was in the dugout for the club's Premiership opener against St Mirren yesterday. After Scott Tanser was penalised for handball in the box, Kevin Van Veen scored from the penalty spot to secure the points for the Steelmen. Former Scotland international Julie Fleeting says England's triumph in the European Championships will inspire the next generation of Scottish female players.
No matter what country you're from, I think everyone will feel the benefit. Right across Europe as well, because the tournament was fantastically run. It was really well supported, and the football on show, the product that they had on show was exciting. And I think if it was people who are their very first time are watching women's football, I'm quite sure they'll come back and they'll be interested to watch it again.
That, folks, is all your sport tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Now Philip has the weather and some photos of beautiful sunsets.
Hello there. Well, over the weekend we were sent in some beautiful sunset pictures from across the country. If you're out and about this upcoming week and take any photos, remember to upload them to Instagram using the hashtag STVSnaps and tagging us at STV Weather, and we may feature some on the forecast. In the meantime, here is a look at the weather.
A light drizzle is coming in from the west. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, over the next couple of days, we start to become under the influence of this deep area of low pressure to the north of the country. The isobars around it are tightly packed, so we will see some quite strong winds for the rest of the week. But by the time we get to the weekend, high pressure is just trying to start to build in from the south and west. Back to just now, though, and for most of us, it has been a fine and dry day. All changed, though, as we head through this evening and overnight. We've got these fronts moving in from the west, bringing with it this large area of rain. Now that will move eastwards across the country. It moves quite quickly as the winds are quite strong, and it will be heavy and persistent at times. Behind it, though, we will see some low cloud forming and some drizzly conditions. So overall, a mild, warm, muggy night to come. Temperatures dropping to lows of around 13 or 14 degrees Celsius. Some spots not getting lower than 16, so it will be quite uncomfortable. Looking ahead to tomorrow, a grey and damp start to the day. That rain continuing for a time, but eventually it does become more focused across western areas. Elsewhere, will be turning drier and brighter with 1 or 2 showers, and in the best of the brighter conditions, temperatures reaching highs of around 21, possibly 22 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to Wednesday, we'll see another feature making its way across the country, bringing with it a spell of rain. It's also introducing cooler air, so temperatures down a degree or 2, highs of 19. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
So that's you back in the studio, Kellyanne, after last week being out on the road.
Indeed, beaches, pools, bakeries, you name it. But I just thought I'd come back to the studio in case you were missing me, John. Just in case.
Did you think? Like the toothache, Kellyanne, like the toothache.
Oh.
Anyway, thank you all. Good night.
Good night.